Have you ever noticed how those who seem strongest are always the first to crumble? Those who speak loudly, beat their chests, and demand respect end up sooner or later being swallowed by their own echo. Machiavelli would call this an irony of human nature. He knew that true power is never displayed, it moves silently. Politics guided by reality teaches that the man who needs to prove strength has already betrayed the weakness he tries to hide. The end justifies the means, yes, but only when the means are clever, cold, and calculated. And nothing is less strategic than the need to be feared for appearances, not competence. We live in an age where the strong are in fact the most fragile. Authoritarian bosses, arrogant influencers, politicians who shout more than they govern, they all stumble into the same error. They believe fear is a form of respect. But Machiavelli knew there's a subtle difference between being feared and being hated. The former breeds obedience, the latter, revolt. The strong man falls because he ignores this boundary. He confuses volume with power, presence with influence, imposition with leadership. And when the world changes, as it always does, his rigidity becomes his greatest enemy. History, psychology, and everyday life prove what Machiavelli said 500 years ago. Power that displays itself too much does not last. The strong fall first because they waste energy sustaining an image they cannot maintain. The wise, who understand true human nature, feign weakness while building empires. In this video, you will understand why the world belongs not to those who roar, but to those who observe, and how in silence the strategist defeats the warrior. The man who needs to be seen as strong is, in fact, a prisoner of the gaze of others. He enters a room trying to dominate the air around him, his chest puffed out, his tone raised, his gaze demanding respect. But Machiavelli, with his reality-driven politics, would already call him a fool, not for lack of courage, but for mistaking noise for power. The true strategist understands that those who need to prove strength already demonstrate weakness. The end justifies the means, but only when there is method, not performance. The appearance of virtue may deceive the naive, but never the wise. Because those who truly hold control need not inflate their ego. A word, a gesture, a silence suffice. Real power is like the wind. You don't see it, but you feel it when it passes. If this resonates, hit subscribe. This strongman archetype is everywhere, in companies, on social media, in romantic relationships. The man who tries to appear unshakable is often the one who fears collapse the most. He believes that aggression is synonymous with leadership, but he forgets that the fear it imposes is temporary, while the confidence it inspires is permanent. Machiavelli taught that a wise ruler surrounds himself with intelligent men because it is in them that his strength is reflected. The problem with the tough guy is that he surrounds himself with sycophants, not allies. He creates a fortress of echoes where only the sound of his own voice is heard, and ironically, the louder he speaks, the less he is heard. Politics guided by reality shows that theatrical strength is just a mask. Beautiful from a distance, fragile to the touch. Power is not about who shouts the loudest, but about who understands when to be silent. In a world where everyone competes for attention, the true leader is the one who observes. He knows that the calculated use of force is not about clenched fists, but about timing. It's the executive who speaks little in a meeting, but everyone awaits his opinion. It's the man who, even in silence, sets the mood. This is virtue, the rare blend of cunning and self-control that Machiavelli considered the heart of power. The strong who feigns fear does not fear becoming hated, but the wise prefer to be respected. Because they understand, imposed fear is momentary, but established respect is invincible, and this is precisely where the psychological error of the performance of force begins. The strong man believes that intimidation is the same as leadership. He confuses respect with fear and authority with control. Machiavelli, who built his politics guided by reality rather than ideals, knew that this confusion is the beginning of ruin. The end justifies the means, but only when the means are intelligent. The exercise of force is like heavy armor. It protects, but also impedes movement. Those who constantly try to prove superiority end up attracting the worst kind of people: sycophants, self-interested individuals, and silent enemies. It's the boss who speaks loudly and is feared in front of employees, but ridiculed in the hallways. It's the friend who commands respect but loses admiration. The loudest person is rarely the most powerful. They're almost always the most insecure. Machiavelli would say that true power needs not a stage, but presence. Those who understand true human nature know that human beings are guided by emotion, not logic, and that is precisely why power must be emotionally intelligent, not impulsive. When someone tries too hard to appear invincible, they send the world a single signal: vulnerability. The need to prove something betrays the fear of not being enough, and insecurity, when disguised as bravery, creates the most fragile type of leadership, that which depends on the gaze of others to exist. Instead of inspiring loyalty, it provokes competition. Instead of building loyal armies of its own, it creates legions of sycophants who wait for the first weakness to pounce. The moment someone needs to prove their strength is the exact moment they've already lost the game. It's at that moment that ego replaces strategy and impulse takes the place of virtue. Machiavelli taught that lasting power arises from constant adaptability, from the ability to change tone, pace, and posture as the situation demands. The wise man doesn't show off, he positions himself, and when he does, it's with the serenity of someone who knows they don't need to win every argument to dominate the entire board. The tough guy, trapped in his own image, reacts. The strategist, guided by reality, responds. And it's this subtle difference that separates instinct from intelligence. Because true war is never against the other. It's against the very need to prove power. And it's in this confusion that the next deception arises, the belief that aggression is the same as authority. Many confuse aggression with power because they grew up believing that the strongest are those who speak the loudest. But Machiavelli, with his reality-driven politics, saw the opposite. True power is silent. The aggressive seeks to dominate through force. The strategist dominates through perception. An aggressive leader causes momentary fear but creates permanent resistance. The wise man, who understands the calculated use of force, builds lasting influence. He knows that power is not about volume. It is about emotional control. Aggression reveals ego, authority, self-control. Machiavelli said, "Never start a war you cannot win." And the man who acts on impulse has already lost before he even attacks, because he ignores true human nature. No one follows someone they fear out of obligation, only someone they admire out of respect. It's easy to find this error in companies, in relationships, and even at home. The boss who yells, the parent who imposes, the partner who threatens. Everyone believes they are being respected, when in fact they are being tolerated. Fear is a currency that quickly devalues. The subordinate obeys but dreams of running away. The child follows orders but grows in silence. The partner yields but distances themselves. Aggression is emotional, power is strategic. The difference between the two is how long they last. Machiavelli taught that true power is maintained when the leader appears just, even when they are not, the appearance of virtue. And this appearance is not achieved with shouting, but with subtle gestures that build authority without creating hatred. Avoiding being hated is the basis of longevity in power. Those who master the power game understand that all aggression is a confession of fear, impotence, or lack of control. The truly strong need not prove anything. They simply adapt, observe, and act when everyone thinks they've retreated. This is virtue, the union of cunning and courage, of the lion and the fox. The aggressive provoke war. The wise awaken loyalty, and in times when visibility is confused with influence, aggression becomes a trap disguised as charisma. The tough guy wins short-term applause and long-term enemies. The strategist, on the other hand, prefers silence because they understand that true power lies not in being seen, but in being indispensable. And it is precisely in this contrast that the next danger arises: the invisible trap of emotional escalation. Emotional escalation is the point at which ego takes the wheel and common sense jumps out. Machiavelli already knew that a man dominated by his own emotions is the easiest to manipulate, because those who act driven by anger lose their sense of strategy. Every act of confrontation is a Russian roulette. You never know the magnitude of the consequences. The tough guy, driven by the need to win arguments, acts first and thinks later. And while he drowns in impulse, the strategist observes silently, calculating the next step. Aggression is emotional, power is rational, and the calculated use of force, as Machiavelli taught, is not reactive, it is tactical. True power lies not in winning fights, but in avoiding unnecessary wars. Think about how many times someone has missed a great opportunity due to a hasty reaction. An investor who sold everything in a panic, a leader who blew up at the team, a partner who ended a relationship in the heat of the moment. Emotional escalation destroys reputations and weakens alliances. Politics guided by reality shows that the wise never react at the first provocation. They know that the emotional enemy always self-destructs. Just give it time. The man of virtue understands the value of silence. He waits, observes, and acts only when the blow is sure. Because power, in essence, is patience with purpose, and the modern world rewards precisely this, the strategic coolness of those who don't allow themselves to be dominated by their own inner fire. While the fool turns every conflict into a battlefield, the wise man transforms every attack into information. He knows that every reaction reveals more about the enemy than any report. Therefore, he chooses when to appear weak and when to bare his teeth. This is the art of constant adaptability, controlling not only what you do, but what others think you will do. Machiavelli saw the true predator as one who moves silently and disappears after the blow, without fanfare, without a trace. Because real power needs no witnesses, and it is precisely in this strategic stillness that the next fatal mistake is born, the visibility trap, where the desire to be seen becomes the greatest weakness. Machiavelli said, "Visibility is vulnerability." A simple phrase, but one that shatters the modern fantasy that power is synonymous with exposure. The tough guy believes that the more he's seen, the more respect he gains, when in fact the more he shows his strength, the more he reveals his weaknesses. Those who show off become predictable, and the predictable are easy to neutralize. The wise man, guided by the politics of reality, knows that power needs shadow. It is in mystery that authority is strengthened. In the world of spotlights and digital vanity, most people overexpose themselves, speaking their minds, showing what they do, revealing every move. But the true strategist operates like a chess player, showing only what is necessary for the opponent to see what they want them to see. In companies, on social media, and even in relationships, excessive visibility creates invisible enemies. The man who boasts of his own achievements arouses silent envy. The leader who shows off too much loses his aura of greatness. The influencer who constantly talks about power becomes vulnerable to judgment. Machiavelli would call this a strategic error, because the appearance of virtue must be controlled, not blatant. Power grows when we talk less and do more. That's why the greatest leaders in history were discreet. They understood that constant attention is a trap that turns strength into spectacle and strategy into theater. He who seeks to be loved by all ends up being hated by the most attentive. The tough guy believes he's winning because he's noticed, talked about, and feared. But while he shines on stage, his enemies plot behind the scenes. Politics guided by reality shows that the stage is the worst place for those who want to win. True power moves between backstage and silent alliances. The wise man understands that too much light creates shadows, and that those who make themselves too visible become easy targets. It's the principle ancient generals followed. Move like water, strike like the wind. The fool proclaims victory before the war. The strategist only speaks after he's won. And it is precisely this blindness of exhibitionism that leads him to the next stage of self-destruction, the blindness of the tyrant, the one who believes submission is respect, without realizing that apparent obedience is often silent resistance. Machiavelli warned, apparent submission hides active resistance. And this is where the blind tyrant stumbles. He believes obedience is a sign of loyalty, when in reality it is merely survival in disguise. He who rules by fear, whether in a company, a relationship, or a social group, fails to realize that visible obedience often hides silent contempt. The authoritarian boss who believes he is respected discovers too late that his employees were only waiting for the opportunity to see him fall. The controlling partner believes he is in charge, but lives trapped in insecurity, and the politician who imposes force discovers that his power ends when people cease to fear him. The man who bases his rule on aggression forgets that the more force he uses, the less real authority he possesses. The tyrant's blindness is emotional. He mistakes silence for approval and fear for admiration. Machiavelli, who advocated a policy guided by reality rather than ideals, knew that fear should be used sparingly, never as a permanent basis. Better to be feared than loved, he said, but with one caveat, as long as one avoids being hated. The tyrant doesn't understand this subtlety. He oversteps the mark and turns respect into resentment. In the modern world, every aggressive act leaves traces, printouts, evidence, digital memories, and reputation, once protected by oblivion, is now judged by its permanence. The dominator's false victory turns into a public downfall. What once was strength becomes scandal. What seemed like control becomes recorded shame. Those who fail to see their own tyranny believe they rule, when in reality they merely frighten. And fear has a short shelf life. True power, as Machiavelli taught, is built with virtu and fortuna, strategy and timing. The wise man understands that emotional control is more effective than any display of force. He doesn't need to monitor others because he inspires natural vigilance. Respect protects him better than any army. The tyrant, on the other hand, lives at war with phantoms, imaginary enemies created by his own paranoia. And it is in this struggle against the wind that he destroys himself, because all blindness to power ends the same way, with the collapse of credibility. When fear is the cement that holds authority together, a single crack is all it takes for everything to crumble. The tough guy believes he's building respect, but what he's building is a fortress of sand. Machiavelli warned, the best fortress a prince can possess is the love of the people. And love here isn't sentimental, it's strategic. It's the kind of trust born from the recognition of competence, not the imposition of force. The leader who chooses the path of intimidation reaps superficial obedience and hidden resistance. He convinces himself that his voice still resonates with authority, when in reality, everyone has stopped listening. In business, he's the isolated manager. In relationships, the toxic partner. In politics, the ruler surrounded by sycophants already negotiating his succession. Credibility is an asset that is destroyed from the inside out. No power survives when discourse is dissociated from reality. Machiavelli, with his politics guided by reality, not ideals, knew that reputation is the most valuable of shields, and also the most fragile. The tough guy loses credibility the moment his fear of appearing weak makes him incoherent. He demands respect, but doesn't give it. Demands loyalty, but acts with suspicion. Demands results, but doesn't inspire. The result is inevitable: isolation. He becomes feared in meetings, ignored behind the scenes, and remembered only as an example of what not to be. Virtue disappears, fortune turns against him, and power, which seemed absolute, dissolves into thin air. The collapse of credibility is silent but devastating. When it arrives, there is no announcement, only absence of allies, of opportunities, of open doors. And what remains is a toxic reputation, the legacy of misused force. The man who once seemed invincible becomes shunned, and the respect he sought by force is replaced by pity. Machiavelli would say, this is the price of strategic blindness, confusing dominance with influence. Because real power is not that of those who impose themselves, but that of those who endure. And those who build their empire on fear never endure. This is where the tough guy looks in the mirror and realizes what he always tried to hide, that his strength was merely a mask for his own weakness. Machiavelli aptly observed, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few feel what you really are." This is the tragedy of the strong man, living imprisoned in the appearance of virtue, sustaining an image that no longer corresponds to inner reality. The individual who needs to appear strong is, in fact, trying to convince himself that he is not weak. The performance of strength stems from the fear of being vulnerable. He dons an emotional armor of sarcasm, coldness, and rigidity, and calls it power. But behind it lurks insecurity, the same insecurity that makes him seek approval through forced respect. Machiavelli, guided by the politics of reality, knew that true virtue is not a pose, it is a nature. The truly powerful man needs to prove nothing. He acts with quiet firmness, as if the whole world could collapse and he still knew where to go. This armor, however, comes at a high cost: disconnection. Those who live by representing strength lose touch with their own humanity. It's the executive who doesn't admit mistakes and therefore never learns. It's the partner who controls to avoid being abandoned and ends up alone. It's the friend who pretends to be immune to pain but sinks into loneliness. Constant performance drains energy, suffocates authenticity, and fuels a cycle of false applause. Machiavelli would call this the appearance of virtue without substance, the mistake of leaders who desire admiration more than effectiveness. The end justifies the means, yes, but only when the means don't destroy the person inside. True power isn't in the appearance of invincibility, but in inner coherence. The imposter trap, as they call it today, is the new sandcastle of the modern era. Everyone wants to appear confident, unshakable, superior, but few have the courage to admit weakness. Paradoxically, it is this confession that generates genuine respect. Because controlled vulnerability is not weakness, it is strategy. The wise man who masters his own shadow understands that self-control is more magnetic than any display of strength. He reveals himself to be human, but remains sovereign. This is the fine line that separates the imposter from the strategist, and the tough guy, trapped in his own performance, never crosses that line. He continues to act, while the wise man evolves. And it is here that Machiavelli introduces a crucial lesson: the error of being merely the lion, the one who roars but forgets to observe. Machiavelli asserted that the wise prince must know how to be both lion and fox, strength and cunning in balance. The lion scares the wolves, but falls into the traps the fox avoids. The modern tough guy, trapped in the idea that power is roaring, forgets to think. He relies solely on brute force, on impulsive reactions, and ignores that the world is driven by strategy, not volume. Being merely the lion is a fatal mistake. It makes man predictable, emotional, and manipulable. Force without calculation is like a blow struck in the dark. It may hit the target, but it can also destroy the wielder. Politics, guided by reality, teaches that virtue is the ability to adjust one's instincts to the context. The truly powerful master both roar and silence with equal mastery, and understands that the art of victory lies in appearing harmless until the moment of action. In human relationships, this mistake is common. The partner who tries to dominate loses the admiration of their loved one. The boss who imposes fear loses the trust of the team. The friend who talks too much betrays his intentions. The wise man, on the other hand, combines the heart of a lion with the brain of a fox. He has the courage to act and the coolness to wait. He observes, listens, and acts at the right time. Machiavelli said that the calculated use of force is the secret to longevity and power, because those who act impulsively waste energy fighting battles that don't matter. The strategist, on the other hand, wins without fighting. He knows that the world doesn't reward the loudest, but the most patient, and that true strength lies in appearing weak when you are strong, not the other way around. The tough guy is the blind lion who roars to be heard. The strategist is the silent lion who roars only when the enemy is one step away from the abyss. Machiavelli would call this adaptable virtue, the wisdom to shed one's skin without losing one's essence. Emotional strength is essential, but without cunning, it becomes self-sabotage. The fox understands what the lion ignores. It's not about dominating the other, but about mastering one's own impulses. And when man fails in this, he ends up trapped in the cycle of self-defense, surrounded by sycophants, isolated from his own humanity. This is the fate of those who have not learned to be diplomatic, and it is precisely in this isolation that the next stage begins. The confinement of the dominator, the psychological toll of those who confuse authority with solitude. The fate of the dominator is solitude. Machiavelli knew that the man who instills fear in everyone ends up surrounded by false friends, sycophants, and spies. It's the invisible price of misunderstood power. The more force you demonstrate, the fewer genuine people remain. The tough guy lives in constant vigilance, unable to relax for fear that any weakness will be used against him. The problem is that no one can live eternally in a state of war. The body becomes ill, the mind becomes exhausted, the spirit grows distant. Politics guided by reality teaches that power is a game of alliances, not walls. And those who build too many walls end up locking themselves within them. The dominator believes they are protecting their throne, when in fact they are merely digging their own dungeon. The loneliness of the powerful is silent but corrosive. They wake up every day surrounded by people who obey them, but none who understand them. In business, this manifests itself in disastrous decisions made without countervailing consideration. In personal life, in superficial relationships based on status, not affection. Machiavelli said that even the most feared prince needs loyal advisors, his own trustworthy armies, to maintain the balance between strength and wisdom. The man who isolates himself from vulnerability loses perspective on reality. Strength without empathy becomes tyranny, and tyranny without allies becomes weakness. This is why truly strong people avoid conflictual energy. They understand that power is not about controlling everyone, but about inspiring the right ones. While the tough guy lives on high alert, silent diplomats build real power networks. They understand that true influence is born of trust, not fear. The dominator, trapped by his own need for control, becomes a prisoner of his own empire. He begins to distrust everyone, and in the end, everyone distrusts him. Machiavelli called this the cycle of the ruler's self-destruction, because the fear he inspires turns against him like a shadow. And it is in this vacuum of authentic connections that the opportunity for a new understanding arises. That force is not the end, but merely a means. What comes next is what truly defines power, the understanding of its true nature. Machiavelli redefined fear, not as an instrument of terror, but as respect for competence. Power, in his view, did not come from tone of voice, physical imposingness, or theatrical aggressiveness. It came from virtù, from the mastery of aligning action and wisdom. At any time, those who master their craft inspire natural authority. This is the doctor everyone listens to in silence, the strategist who speaks little and is always right, the leader who doesn't need to justify himself. Politics guided by reality shows that real authority is silent, and that true power is a consequence of consistency. Better to be feared for your competence than for your aggressiveness, Machiavelli would say, because the former generates trust, while the latter arouses resistance. Power sustained by fear fades over time. That which is born of competence grows with respect. In modern times, the confusion between power and visibility persists. Many believe that authority is about having followers, status, or the spotlight, but power isn't about being seen, it's about being indispensable. The professional who delivers more than they promise, the partner who inspires calm, the leader who doesn't react impulsively, all wield power without needing to advertise it. Machiavelli said that lasting strength comes from credibility, and credibility comes from results. This is what separates the ego from the strategist. While the tough guy strives to be feared, the wise man strives to be trusted. And in the long run, it is trustworthiness that generates influence. Power is, therefore, a reflection of the value one offers the world, not the intensity with which one demands respect. The man who understands the true nature of power abandons the theater and embraces the board. He stops wasting energy trying to convince and starts investing in becoming necessary. The end justifies the means, but the means must be sustainable. And nothing is more sustainable than value. Being feared for one's aggressiveness is ephemeral. Being respected for one's competence is eternal. Power that does not depend on presence is the only one that survives absence. Therefore, the wise man uses fear sparingly and virtue with precision. He knows that each action builds a history, and that it is history, not discourse, that defines who leads and who merely commands. And it is precisely this transition from ego to strategy that marks the evolution of the common man into the true strategist. The turning point comes when man realizes that being strong is not the same as being wise. The ego seeks to prove, strategy seeks to understand. Machiavelli, a master of reality-driven politics, said that true power arises when an individual stops seeking admiration and starts seeking indispensability. The wise man doesn't need to appear powerful, he simply is. His strength comes from consistency, from the predictability of his deliverables, from the trust others place in him. The ego, on the other hand, seeks an audience. It wants to be applauded for small victories, even if the price is exposure and wear and tear. And that's why so many fall. They confuse the stage with the throne. The true strategist understands that power doesn't need to be displayed, it needs to be cultivated. The transition from ego to strategy is like exchanging a game of marked cards for a chessboard. In the game of ego, the goal is to beat the other. In the game of strategy, it's to keep playing. Machiavelli taught that virtù is the ability to adapt to the tides of fortune. This requires patience, reading the environment, and emotional mastery. The man who lives in ego is a slave to approval. The one who lives in strategy is free to choose his moves. A good example of this is leaders who, instead of reacting to criticism, listen and adjust their plan. They understand that time is the best ally of power and that silence is often the best way to shout. The wise man does not seek to win debates. He seeks to build results that make debates unnecessary. The tough guy must prove his strength until he is forced to be strategic. The wise man is born strategic, understanding that every emotional movement has a cost. True power comes from the combination of three forces: coherence, self-control, and results. This is applied virtue. It is the warrior who doesn't waste arrows, the entrepreneur who speaks little and delivers much, the man who knows how to wait for the right moment to act. The ego seeks immediate applause. Strategy builds legacies. Machiavelli would say that the difference between the fool and the wise man is that the former wants to dominate the now, and the latter wants to dominate time. And it is in this silent mastery of time that the ultimate lesson of all is revealed. Power is not struggle, it is art, an art that Machiavelli would summarize in his final teaching. For Machiavelli, power was a chess game, not a ring. The common man wants to fight. The wise man wants to move pieces. Politics guided by reality shows that the world is ruled not by those who shout the loudest, but by those who see the furthest. The end justifies the means, yes, but only when the means are supported by intelligence. The tough guy seeks immediate victory. The strategist seeks lasting influence. Machiavelli knew that every choice, every silence, every gesture, every restrained word is a move on the chessboard of fortune. Those who understand this stop playing for vanity and start playing with purpose. Real power is not about winning confrontations, it is about controlling the conditions of the game. And those who control the conditions never need to prove anything. The wise man understands that power is a dance between the visible and the invisible. It's not the clenched fist, it's the cool mind. It's not the threat, it's the calculation. It's not the noise, it's the silent impact. He doesn't ask, how can I appear strong, but how can I become valuable? This is the difference between the warrior and the strategist, between the man who seeks applause and the one who seeks influence. Machiavelli taught that virtue is the ability to act in harmony with fortune, not to fight chaos, but to harness it as a favorable wind. True power lies in transforming even error into advantage. The wise man accepts the flow, adjusts the sail, and follows, because he understands that it is not the world that must bow to him. It is he who must learn to dance with it. The most powerful are almost always the quietest. This is the epitome of Machiavellian philosophy. Power lies not in appearing impenetrable, but in being imperturbable. The leader who has learned to combine virtue and fortune, cunning and calm, presence and reserve, becomes untouchable, not because everyone fears him, but because no one fully understands where his strength lies. And it is precisely this mystery that keeps him undefeated. Machiavelli, deep down, never preached cynicism. He taught survival in a world driven by real human nature. He knew that power is not about domination, but about understanding, and that when the mind learns to see reality without illusions, man ceases to be played and becomes the player. So after all, what did Machiavelli really want to teach you? That the world doesn't reward those who shout, it rewards those who understand the game. The tough guy may seem invincible for a while, but time always reveals what the ego tries to hide. And when the stage lights go out, only those who have built power based on reality, not performance, remain standing. Machiavelli knew that politics guided by reality is relentless. Those who don't adapt, break. Those who try to dominate by force become slaves to their own image. And those who seek to be feared through aggression end up forgotten. True power lies in subtlety, in self-control, in mastering one's own nature. Now the question is, do you want to continue playing the role of the strong, The one who needs to be seen, heard, feared? Or do you want to become the silent strategist whom no one understands but everyone respects? The end justifies the means, but the right means require emotional intelligence, composure, and virtue. Perhaps it's time to trade shouting for presence, to replace impulse with reading the game, to stop proving and start planning. Because in the end, the winner isn't the most visible but the most patient. And Machiavelli knew, power isn't in appearing immortal, it's in knowing how to die and be reborn as many times as necessary. If this video opened your eyes to see power through a new lens, that of stark reality, then don't leave without taking action. Reflect. In which areas of your life have you been the strong man who falls first? And in which can you become the strategist who endures? Write in the comments what resonated most with you. I want to know where this insight struck you. And if you want to continue learning how to apply Machiavelli's philosophy to real life, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and keep following. Because in the game of power, knowledge is the only fortress no one can take from you.